and welcome to Mr. Anwar's Maths lesson. Today we are going to learn about functions. Okay, guys, this is our very first lesson, and that's why it's really important that I should make my expectations very clear. So, if you are sitting in the classroom, you're expected to take notes, you're expected to have your calculator, your notebook, uh, your pen, all of the things should be ready if you're in the classroom. So similarly, even if you're at home and you're listening to this lesson, please make sure that you have all your things with you because you will need it during this lesson. Also, I will give you many questions during this lesson where you might need a calculator. In that case, you should have your calculator, you should have your pen, you should have your notebook, and you should be taking notes. You should be doing all the work that is assigned to you during this lesson and after this lesson. So make sure that you have all your things ready with you. Excellent. So, we are going to learn about functions. So, the first thing is the lesson objectives. We have two lesson objectives today. The first lesson objective is to determine if a relation is a function. In this part, you will be able to determine, you will be able to find if something is a function or if it's not a function. And the second part is to find out the value of a function. So you will be able to evaluate a function, you will be able to find what is the value of the function. So here I would please pause your video and write down these lesson objectives. Please make sure that you are writing the date, you are writing the lesson objectives, give the title to the lesson. The lesson title is functions or introduction to functions. So make sure that you write down the lesson objectives properly. Please pause the video if you need more time. And we will be moving to the next slide now. So the key vocabulary, there are a few important words that I expect all of you to know before we start this lesson. And these words are really simple and we use them in our everyday life. The first word is relation. Relation in Chinese you say guangxi. A relation can be between two people. It can be between two sets. It could be between two variables. So a relation means a guangxi. The second word is input. I think this is called shuru. And third word is output. I think it's called shuchu. And then the machine. So machine, we already have a machine here. What does this machine do? This machine takes input, it takes the meat, and then it grinds the meat and gives you the mincemeat. So the input here in this machine, the input is the meat and the output is the mincemeat. Okay? Now, what is a function? Now, let's look at the definition, and might be this definition will not make any sense to you unless we do some problems and unless we go into the further details. So the definition of the function is a special relationship between two sets where each input has a single output. Each input should have single output mean only one output. Now, you are already aware of the equations. So look at this equation, y is equal to x plus 2. This is a linear equation. We have learned about linear equations before. Now, in this linear equation, if you put different values of x, you get different values of y. If you input x as 0, if you input x as 0 in this equation, you get y is equal to 2. If you input x is equal to 1, you get y is equal to 3. If you input x is equal to 2, you get y is equal to 4, and so on. So here, this equation is actually, it can be written as in function notation. It's a function. It can be written as a function notation as f of x is equal to x plus 2. F of x is equal to x plus 2. It's the same thing, right? It's very simple. So uh, let me relate it to the same analogy that we were talking about before. We were talking about the machine. So just imagine that function is a machine. If you input anything in the function, if you put x is equal to 0 here, the output will be 2. If you put x is equal to 1 in this function, if you put x is equal to 2 in this function, the output would be 4, and so on. So this is a function, f of x is equal to x plus 2. This is just another way to write down the equation so far. But later on we'll discuss that there are occasions where some equations are not functions. So um, the next thing is the function notation. So this is the function notation. What is a function notation? Function notation is just a mathematical way to write down the equation. For example, f of x is read as function of x, or f of x. So this is how will you read this? This is the function of x, or you can also read it as f of x. I would be most probably using f of x all the time because that's what is in my mouth. Um, but you might be wondering that why F, why not G, or why not H, or why not K? Yes, definitely you can write the most common letter to denote a function is F, but you can use the other letter and you will see it in the questions. For example, they use G, H, or K. So if you can have like G of X or K of X or H of X or anything, it doesn't matter. Now, there's another way to write down the function, and that is, for example, the same function f of x is equal to x plus 2. It can also be written as f colon x arrow x plus 2, which is the same thing. It's just you need to know in your exam, or when you're doing the questions, a function can be written in this way. So you should be able to recognize this. Now, how would you read this? You will be reading this as f is a function that maps x onto x plus 2. F is a function that maps x into x plus 2. F is a function that maps x into x plus 2. Very, very simple. Now, so far we have been learning very, very dry theory. So now let's straight away move to some problems and we will have a better understanding. So the first thing that you need to know is how to evaluate a function, how to find out the value of a function, and it's very, 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 very simple. So for example, if you have a function f of x is equal to 5x plus 7 and they ask you to calculate the value of f of 7, what do you need to do? You just need to substitute 7 in your function. Wherever you have x, you substitute it with 7. So replace this with 7. So f of x is equal to 5x plus 7. What it would become, if you put instead of x, you're supposed to put 7. So here we are going to put 7, replace x with 7. F of 7 will be 5 times 7 plus 7, and that gives you 42. Very, very simple. Okay, if you need some more time to absorb it, just pause it here and then you can move to the you can just continue your video after that. If not, then let's move to the next slide. Let's look at one more example. If you have a function f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 6x, calculate the value of f of minus 1. So what you're going to do is very, very simple. You're just going to replace x with negative 1. So that will give you f of minus 1 or f of negative 1. That will be 2 into negative 1 square minus 6 into negative 1. And if you calculate it, that becomes a 8. Very clear? Excellent. No problem so far. Now, it's the time for you. You have some practice questions. So do these questions by yourself. And I'm going to show you the answers to these questions in a minute. So please pause the video here. Pause the video and do these questions on your notebook where you're taking these notes. Do these questions, pause the video, and I will show you the answers and the solutions. Excellent. So let's look at the solutions. The solutions of the first question's answer is 18. The second question's answer is 18. The third one, its answer is negative 4 and 18. If you have any problem with these questions, please pause the video here and look at the solutions. But I'm very sure no one should have problem. It's very, very simple. And even you can ask me through MS Team, or you can also ask me if you have any questions through email. So don't worry. Um, we have uh, we have done one part of the lesson, and for the second part, I'm going to make another video. I just want you to look at the other video. That's it for now. This lesson is not finished. I just see the other video, please.